Hi, I'm Scott Evans. I just want to give you a little background on what you're about to see here. I grew up with quite a bit of involvement in motorcycles, started riding around age 8. Eventually over the years, after a real love of road racing, I did a little road racing. I did some ice racing, some off-road riding, etc. At one point I even worked for a Superbike team. Motorcycle road racing was my real love. And after years of working in the video and television production field, I created an opportunity to get out from behind the camera and get in front of the camera, and you can see some examples of that elsewhere on this YouTube channel. So around 2001, I had the opportunity to start taking equipment out on my own time on weekends and start creating a whole bunch of motorsports content with the intent of producing a show, at least a pilot of a show, for the cable network that I worked for. So throughout the year in 2001, amongst the offshore racing boats and the stock car racing, I had opportunity to go to the Toronto International Motorcycle Show and interview some fairly well-known individuals. All of this was in an effort to put together a show idea for the Rogers television network, which I called RPM, Rogers Performance Magazine. Unfortunately, they weren't so enthusiastic about the idea, and the show never came to fruition. However, I did keep all those tapes, and with my own equipment, years later, I was able to digitize that material, and now I can bring you some examples of that stuff that I did 14 years ago. That being said, if you're a fan of any sort of racing, you'll probably recognize the following gentlemen.
As far as street riding, I've never really been a big fan of it because my purpose for riding bikes is I like to take them and I like to take them as fast as I can. And I don't like just taking things off in the blind and not knowing what's around the next bend. I road race, and it isn't that dangerous. It's very calculated. And road riding to me just teaches me bad habits that apply to the track. The asphalt's always dirtier, never as adhesive as like a racetrack is. So no, I don't do any road riding at all, and it's something that I think I'm really going to start to enjoy because I'm getting older now, and I want to sort of get more into the cruise and enjoy motorcycling for what it is, just a freedom thing and not a speed thing anymore. No, I never fall off. I actually get thrown off. What a stupid question. No, I'm kidding. Off-road riding is something I've always participated in, and it's my roots of motorcycling. I first started on dirt bikes because I had this idea that I was going to ride road bikes, and I think my parents wanted to deter me a little bit, and because I was a bit of a wild card, you could say, and they started me in on riding dirt bikes, and then I got right into motocross right away. And I sort of gave up on motocross because I was just a bit too wild and, you know, running out of money and parts and everything. And I got into road racing. Then I found that the things you do on a road bike are very similar to a dirt bike. You ride them as hard as possible. You get them all out of shape. You slide them, you spin them, you brake as hard as possible. And everything is just, you know, in a rush environment. That's the same thing as like motocross. So I've always used motocross as like a cross training that applies to road racing, which road racing isn't as physical, but motocrossing and trail riding, they are more physical, so it's just a really good cross-train method.
What about ice racing?
I didn't really answer that too good.
What about ice racing?
Ice racing is a cold sport, and
Have you done any of those?
yeah, I've done some ice racing. I do it a little bit out west in BC, but it's really, you know, it's iffy if we ever get the right ice and stuff like that, because like this year we're going through a thermal right now. There's no ice, so I won't be participating. But I think the big challenge is to try to get me to Quebec, and I got to take on Pascal Picotte because he's the man right now. But no, ice racing minimal.
Speak about BC.
BC is home to me, and it's where I think I'll always reside if I live in Canada. You know, my parents moved us out there when I was 2, and to me it's just home. And the environment to me is just everything I like, with all the mountains, and you know, it's seasonal and weather changes, and not too cold in the winter and not too hot in the summer, and a bit too wet. You'd think I'd be a little taller for the amount of wet feet I've had all my life, but yeah, BC's home, and I don't think anything's going to pull me away from that. Well, to be successful in road racing is it's a difficult thing if you don't have support, and I'm not talking financially, but just support, you know, emotionally, and I don't know the other words to use, but my family's never, ever told me I can't do anything. You know, don't get started in that. This is too dangerous. You know, you're not going to make any money. They've never stopped me from doing anything I wanted to do. So the most support I've ever had in racing doesn't come from friends, but from definitely family and my parents, never not standing behind what I want to do. What am I going to do? Well, you know, 5 years ago, everybody would ask me, do I want to work in the industry? And I was thinking, oh, no. But, you know, like now that I start looking at things and talking about my career after racing more, I think I definitely want to stay somehow involved in the industry. There's areas of testing motorcycles and product development that I have great interest in. I have interest in safety for everybody, riding gear and stuff like that, and what we can do to make the industry better and funner for all, not just racers, but for all enthusiasts. And I think there's a really good chance you're going to see me with the Rocket a little more in the future, or hopefully Honda, I don't know. Internet use, aside from looking up the odd girl thing, no, I'm kidding. The internet for me is, I'm not really on it. I spend most of my time like at home in the garage working on all my bikes and all my stuff to get going riding. But the one tool I use the internet for more than anything is finding trails. And you know, you look up, say you're going to go to California, you look up the Bureau of Land Management's there, and the OHV parks, the off-road parks, and or they call them SRV parks, whatever. But you can get all the trail maps, get all the information where all the Bureau of Land Management. It's actually, for going trail riding, it's made it a lot funner, because when you show up somewhere, if you don't know where you're going to go, trail riding's never any fun. You just do a circle, and you know, there could be so much more out there. And the internet provides all that information for me. Ooh, I guess for my two children who aren't really even riding yet, I got a PW50. I'm not going to say what brand that is, but soon to be replaced, I think, by some XR50s. I have XR100. I have a Yamaha TTR 125 for the wife to ride. She's got a little dual sport bike as well. I have two CR 250s. I have a KTM 520, not another Honda brand. Let's see, I do have a street bike, but I don't ride it. I bought it more for sentimental reasons. But I have a 1990 RZ 350 Yamaha, which I started racing on in 1984, and I just have a thing for those, so I bought one. It's brand new, and I don't ride it, but I have it. Unfortunately, I've never been able to obtain any of my, or when I was younger riding in Canada, I couldn't afford to try to buy, or I couldn't obtain any of the race bikes I won championships on. For reasons of finances, we always had to sell them. And then I spent the Kawasaki years in Canada. I never owned those bikes. But I was fortunate enough to win the 600 Supersport Championship in the States for AMA Racing. That, I guess, is a pretty big goal in itself. And at the end of the year, I said, you know, Mr. Suzuki guys, I don't ask for much, but do you think I can have my GSXR 600? And they gave me that bike. I brought it into Canada. I imported it into Canada. And I hung that up above my dining room door. It's 9 feet in the air, and it's just a decorative piece in my home, and it's there to stay. And that's a trophy I'll always hang on to, because in racing, all the prize money you win, all the money you earn, that all goes. Either it's invested, or it's in your home, or your wife likes jewelry. I don't know, but the money goes, and the money goes fast. And the only thing you're left with are your mementos. So only have one bike and a whole bunch of leathers and crash helmets. in the years of racing, the most significant thing I've learned about myself is the never give up attitude. You know, like when I was young, I was a special case in school, and I was put aside by the system. I have major learning disabilities, and go figure, I don't pay attention very well. But that's all you choose, a solo man sport like racing. But I was as a young man and a late teenager, I was very, very scared to get out in the real world. And thank God my dad gave me a job when I was younger, and I turned that money into race bikes. I went road racing, financed my road racing early on in my career. But from that, I learned, you know, like, it doesn't matter, you know, what you came from, who you are. It's what you want to be and what you're going to put into that is important for your future. And I was always intimidated because of education and where I would be in life. And I have no regrets now, and that's what I've gotten from motorcycle racing. If that makes any sense.
Well, I hope you enjoyed watching that. It may be a little dry, I admit. I'm not able to afford to buy the rights to all the old racing footage that I would like to incorporate into that piece. Nonetheless, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to include 3 or 4 other notable motorsports competitors. I hope you'll come back and watch my interviews with them. Cheers.